Yeah, we back. Now today's gonna be a quick video. I gotta come back and debunk the adversary once again, just like our illustrious forefathers did the same thing 20 years ago. Now, as you already know, at the beginning of the month, a French intelligence agent by the name of Jean-Christian Benavezilier was arrested in Mali on charges of organizing a conspiracy to overthrow the government. Now, from the last we heard, I believe that he's still in custody. We have not received any updates in about a week, and we're probably not going to receive any updates for the foreseeable future. Of course, the French government has come out and denied it, released a copy and paste diplomatic statement, and then quickly tried to bury the story. Now, I'm seeing that in the French media, they have been releasing a series of hit pieces against the Malian government, right? Discrediting the government, slandering the government. Of course, it ties into the overall propaganda war they've been waging against the nations in the Sahel. Misinformation, disinformation, slander, propaganda, discrediting the government, etc., etc. So we're going to jump into some of those articles today. And it's funny because the topic of conversation should be the French government tried to overthrow another government, but instead they're trying to switch the topic. And not only are they trying to dodge accountability for what they did, they're trying to put President Assimi Goïta in the hot seat. They're trying to put him in the interrogation room to deflect from their own actions, right? Pure misdirection, pure propaganda. But we're going to get into some of the articles today, right? Not wasting no time. Let's get into it. Take a look up on the screen. This article is coming from RFI. Now, RFI, take a look up on the screen. That is Radio France International. And when you look at the ownership of RFI, when you take a look at who owns the company, the publication, take a look up on the screen. The owner, the government of France, right? So when you see an article come out from RFI, that is coming directly from the government of France, coming directly from French intelligence. It's not an independent media house that is, putting out, cutting edge journalism. No, it is a mouthpiece for the government of France, right? Everything coming out of RFI is coming straight out of the DGSE and the French foreign policy advisor, the French government. This is the mouthpiece of the government. Now, take a look up on the screen. The headline says this: 5 years after the 2020 coup, where is Mali today? When Mali's military staged a first coup in August 2020, they said they were not planning on holding on to power and they promised elections. But after a second coup that overthrew the transitional civilian government in 2021, the military is still in charge. 5 years on, the country finds itself mired in criminal and sectarian violence and economic hardship. Now, time out. Now, you see, just a couple weeks ago, they failed in trying to overthrow the government. Now they're coming back around. The elections. You told us that you would give up power. You're still in power. What's going on? Let's continue. Malians welcomed the coup that overthrew President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta in August 2020. General Assimi Goïta promised to root out the jihadists in the north of the country, which Mali had been unsuccessfully trying to do for nearly a decade with the support of the French military and a United Nations peacekeeping mission. Now, time out. Now, in the article, they said that the French military was in the country for nearly a decade and failed. They admitted their failure in the paragraph right there. They said Mali had been unsuccessful for nearly a decade with the support of the French, right? And they said General Assimi Goïta had promised to root out the jihadists in the north of the country. But guess what? How come after the French left, the Malian army began capturing towns in the north that the French military couldn't even capture after, like they said in the article, after nearly a decade? Take a look up on the screen. At the end of 2023, the Malian army seizes a key rebel northern stronghold, Kidal, right? So, which means that in 2023, Assimi Goïta, within about 2-3 years, accomplished what the French military in combination with the United Nations troops could not accomplish in a decade, right? So you guys couldn't do something in 10 years that General Assimi Goïta accomplished in 2-3 years, right? So, once again, embarrass yourself. Once again, you're a failure. Now, let's continue. Then Mali experienced its second coup in 2021, and Assimi Goïta, as interim president, promised credible, fair, and transparent elections and a handover to civilian rule by June 2022. But this has never come to pass. Now, time out. You can tell this article was written with bitterness at the fact that the operation to overthrow the government was a failure. It was a flop. You can hear the bitterness and the anger all over the article. They have employed all means to topple the regimes, right? Clandestinely supporting terrorist groups, slander propaganda in the media, covert operations to topple the government. And of course, it's all failed. So far, this article sounds like a temper tantrum. It sounds like a child that is upset and is now lashing out emotionally. That's the vibe I get, right? You imagine that right now you'd be celebrating with the new regime in power, right? A new government in power that would be ready to restore the old diplomatic relations with France. But unfortunately, the plan failed. So now you are angry, lashing out, and now you are calling for elections in the media and trying to undermine his legitimacy because you could not topple his authority, right? So now you're lashing out like a little child, right? You're lashing out like a child when you take away his toys. Anyway, let's continue. Instead, Mali has shifted allegiances away from France, from which it severed ties in 2022, towards Russia, which sent mercenaries from the Wagner group to fight with the army. In 2023, the Malian army regained control of Kidal. Okay, so the adversary, timeout. So the adversary does acknowledge that President Assimi Goïta was able to recapture the rebel stronghold of Kidal, the terrorist stronghold of Kidal, right? That the French government, in combination with the United Nations peacekeeping troops, could not capture in over a decade, in 10 years, right? So President Assimi Goïta once again accomplished in less than 5 years what you could not accomplish in 10 years, right? So once again, who is the superior military officer? Who is the superior military commander, right? Anyway, let's continue. In 2023, the Malian army regained control of Kidal, a separatist stronghold, but Wagner has been unable to help Mali take back full control of the territory. Now, time out. When the French government, because that's who's speaking right now, right? Because this is a French state-owned media publication. So when the French government says that Mali has been unable to take back full control of the territory, we have to go back to the origins. What was the origin of the instability and the loss of territorial integrity? That was because the intervention in Libya with Gaddafi, you intervening and supporting the terrorist groups and flooding the region with weapons, which then spilled over into neighboring countries. That is what led to the loss of territory. And like I said before, President Assimi Goïta was able to recapture more territory in less than 5 years than you did in over 10 years. And due to the fact that you don't want to fully embrace that embarrassment and that failure, you now want to switch the goalposts and now say that they have not taken back full control in totality, right? So now you want to switch the goalposts and say, well, you haven't taken back the full territory. Well, guess what? When the French military was there, when the UN peacekeeping troops were there, you couldn't take back the full control of the territory. In fact, when you were there, the terrorists were the one that were gaining ground and the government was losing territory when you were stationed on the ground. So how can you lecture anybody's military performance when after 10 years, you have not been able to generate any military results? To me, I think that's unfair, right? You were there in the region for longer. You had more resources at your disposal, more military technology at your disposal, and still you put up less results. So how can you hold the government of Mali, how can you hold President Assimi Goïta to a standard that you yourself failed to meet with more resources and more time at your disposal? Brother, you a failure. Stop talking to me. Get out my face, Frenchie. Anyway, let's continue. Many Malian towns are still controlled by jihadists, and the army and its Russian allies are regularly accused of abuse against civilians. Now, time out. Obviously, the abuse against civilians is a song that we have been hearing coming out of the Western media, these Western think tanks, for a very long time. Abuse against civilians. We saw an article from the Washington Post where a white woman was talking about Ibrahim Traoré, the murderer of the civilians, right? So the abuse against civilians, that's pretty much copy and paste standard defamation and slander coming from the Western media, right? That's the tried and true. Oh, the abuse against the civilians. Now, my only issue when they make these accusations is they never actually come out with any information, right? It's just this anonymous source, right? We spoke to some lady in the bush and she told us a story about what she heard from her friend, right? So how do civilians living off in the village, how do they get in contact with the French intelligence services to give them a story about what's going on in the village, right? Explain to me how that occurs from somebody in the village giving a testimony that somehow reaches the French intelligence, that somehow it lands on the French media. Explain to me how that occurs, right? An anonymous source told us that the Malian army killed 700 civilians yesterday. I'm not even trying to discount or discredit what you're saying. I'm just saying, come with the proof. Back up what you're saying. Who is the accuser? Identify the accuser. Where did it take place? The abuse against the civilians, right? The time and the place, right? Give us the coordinates, because when you come with an anonymous source, you make it impossible to hold you accountable for your own words and accusations. Something else we got to take into account is a lot of these so-called terrorists, they like to blend in and out with the civilian population, right? They like to carry out attacks and then try to blend back in with the civilian population, right? So when the government retaliates against those who attack the government, then all of a sudden you attacking the civilians. So we got to also make sure that when you reference civilians, are you talking about combatants? because that's two different things. Combatants are not protected under international law. And also, to be honest, I just don't see a universe where Russian mercenaries are in Mali abusing civilians and President Assimi Goïta is simply allowing that to go down. I just don't see that happening, right? The same President Assimi Goïta that has locked up the CEOs of multinational corporations, the same President Assimi Goïta that has locked up brigadier generals accused in conspiracies to overthrow the government, the same President Assimi Goïta that currently right now has a French intelligence agent for the DGSE currently in custody, locked down in Bamako right now, the same President Assimi Goïta who has shown time and time again that he is willing to put his foot down. I just don't see a world where he is allowing Russian mercenaries to go around committing atrocities on his territory, right? In fact, when the Russians tried to inquire about getting mining concessions, President Assimi Goïta personally blocked the Russians from obtaining any mining licenses in Mali. Take a look up on the screen. Recent reports from late August 2025 confirmed that the Wagner Group ultimately secured 0 mining concessions in Mali as payment for their services. The Malian military government blocked Wagner from obtaining mining licenses, and the group's attempts to enter the mining sector were limited. Right? So I just don't see a world where President Assimi Goïta is allowing Russian mercenaries to commit atrocities on his own country, on his territory, and he's not going to do something about it. I just don't see that happening. Because when they tried to go to the mining sector, he said, back up, hold up, little bro, listen, you are here as a contractor, right? You are here as a security contractor. Don't be looking at the gold mines, bro. Don't be looking at the gold mines, little bro. That ain't for you, right? That ain't for you. That's for me, right? Take a look up on the screen. Instead of concessions, Mali paid Wagner through other arrangements, including leveraging tax revenue from mining companies. Despite the failure to secure mining deals, Russia continues to pursue mining interests in the country, including building a new gold refinery, right? So instead of getting mining concessions, instead of extracting the gold for cheap, President Assimi Goïta said, listen, back up, little bro. But if you want to go into the mining sector, you can go ahead and let's build a refinery. Let's go into partnership and let's build a refinery. So that way we can really get to the money for real, right? Stop with this nonsense about getting mining concessions. Let's build a refinery. And back to the French government. The French government was in Mali for how long? And you never built a single refinery? You never built a single refinery after 100 years, which means that as an economic partner, you provide no value. As a military partner, you provide no value. 10 years in a region, 0 results, no results. You couldn't even capture the terrorist stronghold after 10 years, right? So in the arena of security, in the arena of economic partnership, you are not a valuable partner. You are not a valuable individual. You provide no value. You are a parasite. You are a leech. You are a drain on the ecosystem. And worst of all, you are a man of low character. Worst of all, you are a man of no character, no honor, no integrity. Now, let's continue. An investigative report by The Century found that Mali's President Assimi Goïta personally blocked Wagner from receiving mining concessions as payment for security services. So that's what I'm saying. The same President Assimi Goïta that strong-armed the Russians and backed them away from the gold mines, you telling me that he's allowing them to carry out atrocities against civilians? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. President Assimi Goïta currently right now, he still got your boy locked down in prison right now. Yeah, got your boy locked up in Bamako prison. So I don't believe that he's allowing that to go down on his watch. I think you're lying on President Assimi Goïta. To be honest, I think you're a liar. I think you're a scumbag. But since we're on the topic of abuse against civilians, it's funny how you forget, right? It's funny how you forget. Take a look up on the screen. You remember the airstrike that hit that wedding in Mali a few years back? I think it was like, 2021 or something like that, right? Take a look up on the screen. A UN inquiry finds that a French airstrike killed Malian civilians, right? Take a look at this headline. A French air attack in Mali killed 19 unarmed civilians. A United Nations probe concludes that a French air attack hit a wedding celebration with 100 civilians at the site of the air raid, contradicting French military claims that it targeted terrorists, right? So you remember this whole scandal a few years back where the French government was carrying out some type of air operation, some type of aerial operation, and they accidentally launched an airstrike on a wedding, on a bunch of citizens celebrating a wedding. You know, children and elderly folks just having a good old time. They got blasted by the French airstrikes, right? So you're talking about abuse against civilians when you are going around launching airstrikes against weddings and small gatherings, bro. You are such an incompetent piece of trash that you were literally launching attacks against civilians and weddings and small celebrations, bro. You are garbage. You are trash. You were in Mali for over 10 years and you only managed to kill some elderly folks at a wedding. My God, bro, get this guy out of here, man. And to be honest, I really don't know why the French government is preoccupying themselves worrying about what's going on in West Africa, what's going on in Mali, what's going on in the Sahel, when currently right now, your economy is currently, like I mentioned before, is in full scale collapse, right? You really need to be looking inward instead of looking outward, right? Just a few days ago, we seen headlines coming out talking about this. Take a look up on the screen. France may be heading for an IMF bailout, according to the finance minister, right? So the finance minister, Eric Lombard, he's saying that the economic crisis in the country is looking so bad, right? The debt is looking so atrocious that an IMF bailout may be on the table. As if France is a third world country, they may need to go to an IMF for a bailout just to stabilize the economy, right? Now we understand why you're going back to old school tactics, trying to violently overthrow the government, because right now your back is against the wall, right? You need to go to the IMF with your hat in your hand begging for a bailout, right? That's how bleak the economic future is looking for you. Meanwhile, take a look up on the screen. Mali's economy has shown some resilience despite significant headwinds. Economic growth is expected to reach 5% in 2025, supported by strong agriculture production, the start of lithium extraction, and continued growth in services. However, the decrease in foreign aid, lower gold production, and the shutdown of the largest mine weighs negatively on the outlook. Contingent on mining activities returning to normal levels, the growth is expected to rebound to 5.4%, right? So just like President Ibrahim Traoré, somehow President Assimi Goïta is able to get economic growth even while fighting terrorism at the exact same time. Meanwhile, the French economy is currently in full-scale collapse. They're not fighting any internal instability, no jihadist insurgency, right? The treasury is full of stolen colonial possessions, right? And still, you cannot manage an economy. You still cannot govern yourself effectively, right? And you need to go to the IMF for a bailout, right? I mean, seriously, it seems like these guys cannot govern themselves effectively, right? It seems like these guys, without leeching off the black man, these guys cannot effectively carry out their duties and functions of government. So therefore, due to the fact that these guys cannot govern themselves, it's probably best that they, come under, vassalage, they become a vassal state of whatever African nation wants to take them in as a vassal state so they can pay tribute and tax to whatever African nation decides to take them in as a colony. I want to also debunk when it says that the decrease in foreign aid, the lower gold production, and the shutdown of the largest mine. Number one, a decrease in foreign aid is not a bad thing, right? That means you are becoming more self-sufficient. Number two, the lower gold production is because they've been locked in a dispute with Barrick Gold, the second largest gold mining company. And because of that, the gold mining operations were suspended. So, of course, there's going to be lower gold production because you're locked in a contractual dispute with the multinationals. So that is currently on pause right now. But gold production recently was resumed because the government of Mali took over the entire gold mine, right? So you talk about the shutdown of the gold mine, but they did not mention that the government actually reopened the gold mine under full state control, right? Took back the gold mine from the multinational. And they said that once mining activities go back to normal levels, economic growth is going to rebound even higher. So like I said, man, while the French economy is collapsing, my boy President Assimi Goïta building gold refineries, and the economy is on an upward trajectory, and he took back the stronghold in the north, and he had more military victories that the French accomplished in more than 10 years. He accomplished it in less than 5 years. So like I said, man, who is the superior commander-in-chief? Who is the superior leader? President Assimi Goïta or Emmanuel Macron? If we were to give each of these leaders their report card, who would come out on top? You already know I got my money on the general. President Emmanuel Macron, one of the worst French leaders in history. One of the worst. His ancestors looked down on him with pity and contempt and disgrace. And that's a fact. Anyways, man, this article was garbage. Like I said, this article coming straight from the French government, the French state-owned media, simply trying to put out propaganda, misdirection, distract the public from the fact that they tried to overthrow the government in Mali earlier this month and it failed, right? So to deflect away from that and take away attention from that, they want to put President Assimi Goïta under the spotlight and judge his credentials and his accomplishments because they don't want anybody to talk about Yann Vezelier, the French intelligence agent right now who is currently still in custody on conspiracy for trying to overthrow the government in Mali. So they're trying to change the conversation to something else. But listen, we're not going to allow you to change the conversation to anything else. Anyways, man, it's your boy Neferkari Saline. Subscribe to the Patreon, NTD1814, link in the description, pinned comment at the top. Second single off the next project, The Spy and Bamako. Check it out, and I'm gone. Peace.
Feel like you see me, I feel like I'm Saudi or ran up on Yana in the middle of Bamako. Enemy line, they claiming he innocent. Don't do no talking, I gotta move militant. Don't do no talking, I hit him with facts. 1804, bringing it back. 1804 like I'm Mother Cap Henry. King with the vision, the crown never empty. Top of the mountain, my soldiers defend me. Ducking and dodging the foreign intelligence. Hitting my dance on the DGSE. Dodging they traps, still on my feet. Feeling impeccable, feel like I'm shining. Go to my neck and I'm flooded with diamonds. Go to my neck and I feel like a mess. Feel like a lion, I'm in the savannah. Feel like the king when I'm up in the jungle. Never defeated, I never been humble. Come out victorious every encounter. Money machine give me help when I count it. Money machine stack it up in a beat. Heart of a king and I ride for the team. Weight of the world got it stuck on my shoulders. Bet you can feel it, my heart getting colder. Yeah, gotta stay focused so when it's in shots I gotta react. Cause I'm a target, I'm under attack. Grabbing a weapon, I tell her get back. Mission exposed, secrets unfold. Enemy try but I'm still in control. Got your boy sitting in Bamako prison, hoping they wish we sending them home. Enemy know that we good under pressure. Been through the thunderous turbulent storm. Shorty a diamond, I told her she pressure. Hop in the whip and I'm taking her home. Hop in the whip and I'm swerving, I'm smashed. Killing my enemies, one of my passion. Rocking this gold like we in bikini. Feel like the captain, I'm clutching a heater. Yeah, gotta stay focused so when it's in shots I gotta react. Cause I'm a target, I'm under attack. Grabbing a weapon, I tell her get back. Mission exposed, secrets unfold. Enemy try but I'm still in control. Got your boy sitting in Bamako prison, hoping they wish we sending them home. Enemy know that we good under pressure. Been through the thunderous turbulent storm. Shorty a diamond, I told her she pressure. Hop in the whip and I'm taking her home. Hop in the whip and I'm swerving, I'm smashed. Killing my enemies, one of my passion. Rocking this gold like we in bikini. Feel like the captain, I'm clutching a heater.